Welcome back to Beyond the Headline, everyone. I'm so excited you're here today for our first episode of 2016 because I'm here with the founder and CEO of Procom, Matt Williams. Matt, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I know we have a lot we want to cover today, but before we get started, what would happen right now if I went on Chrome and typed in pro.com?
Well, you'd find a website where you could price out any home project by simply typing in install ceiling fan or paint bedroom, and we'll show you instantly how much that would cost for your zip code for your area of the country. And then if you want to get a pro to come out and do the work, we can get somebody scheduled right away to do that.
And you can also text 776-776.
Yep, exactly. We actually launched that in addition with Facebook. You can go on a Facebook Messenger and just type in pro.com, and you'll find us immediately, and we'll be able to get you a pro connected up over Messenger or text or online.
When you first pitched that to people, did they believe it?
When I first pitched what to people?
The idea that it was going to be this simple?
I think that everyone hopes that it can be that simple. I think that with the kind of the everyday use of a company like Uber for on-demand, taxi and car service, you hope that it can be that simple, where you can just push a button or text a message and get something done. And we've made that a reality, and now trying to take that to every city around the country.
Matt, you've had numerous roles as founder, CEO, senior executive. What does it feel like going back and starting again?
It's invigorating. I'm a builder at heart. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My mother, father, stepfather all created businesses from scratch in completely different industries. My mother in Montessori schools, my father in the radio industry, having started a number of different radio stations, and my stepfather was a contractor who owned and operated his own construction company. So I was able to get a dose of kind of entrepreneurship growing up, and always wanted to start my own company. Was lucky enough to do that in my 20s successfully, and it's then I was at Amazon for 12 years, which is frankly the world's largest startup in terms of what you get involved in starting businesses from scratch. And I was there in the early days, and so it's been a fun career starting companies and then working as a startup entrepreneur in large companies.
What did you really take from your time at Amazon?
Well, a discipline, an operating discipline focused on data and metrics, and really people and recruiting and hiring the right people. So the two largest takeaways were how to measure a business and how to do that kind of relentlessly, and how to recruit top talent that really can make a big impact on the outcome.
I'm really glad you mentioned bringing on exceptional team members, because I was wondering, this time around, do you feel like a hiring pro, or do you still face the same challenges?
It's a great question. I guess I've learned a couple of things in hiring. One of which, in a startup, you have to have perseverance. You have to have drive and just the aggressive ability to try many different things and be okay with many different things not working out. And not everybody has that, has that skill, that attribute, that component of their being that just drives them to quickly solve and figure out whether or not something's going to work. And it's just a very different attribute than when you're interviewing for a large company. And so it's essential that what I found is that you work with others that you've worked with before, that already have that capability to just drive and deliver on results, and to do so by trying out many different things. Those individuals in life may not necessarily be the best operators of a business of 1,000 people, but they may be able to solve and figure out how to get and navigate to a company that goes from 5 people to 10 or 20 or 50, and to grow the business from $1,000 to hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. And so recruiting is the most important thing you can do next to being in the kind of creating a company that's in the right place at the right time. And I think that finding those that have perseverance is a high valued attribute is important.
And when you think of that perseverance, we hear often that good is better than perfect. And I had a friend that told me that you know you've brought on the right person when you're the one who's like, hey, it's good enough, let it go. Once you have people on your team, Matt, how do you help them grow into their roles?
Well, it is, as a startup, you really have a divide and conquer mentality. You're wearing many hats, and really just comes down to, what are what is each individual going to do, and how are they measured against that? And so the best way that I've found to teach, I guess, mentor and grow or develop kind of talent is to have very clear and specific goals, have a path outlined that they architect, that individual architects, and then to support them along the way as they hit roadblocks, right? And in a startup, it's nothing but roadblocks. It's whether it's customer acquisition, or whether it's in our case pro acquisition and being able to develop partnerships. There's a roadblock every day, and so it's my job to have good solid goals set up, and then to help those individuals achieve those goals and remove roadblocks.
I'm glad that you brought up goals because I wanted to touch on it in a few ways. You have some great posts on this, and of course, it's very timely with the year starting and everyone
Yes.
wanting to set 2016 objectives. You talk about, for your business at least, having one or two main objectives, so the big ones, and then a few more that are smaller and you're going to experiment with.
Right.
Can you give an example of that?
Well, I think for goals for the business and for a startup, usually you have one or two that are the key goals. For us, it's number of jobs and it's revenue. I think you then look to pilot and drive some smaller projects that test different things, right? And so that might be trying a different set of marketing concepts in one city versus another. And those are trials that you're trying to drive customer acquisition costs down from X to Y, right? So your goals and your kind of operating metrics and how you're looking to improve the business are usually kind of divided into those camps of what are the high level goals you're going after as a company that everybody's aligned under, and then the key metrics that you're trying to impact of reducing your COGS or reducing your customer acquisition costs or something like that.
When it comes to the smaller experience, you were just saying, testing different marketing channels in a new city or in two cities to see what's working best. What would it feel like if I came into the debrief room with you guys after the experiment?
Well, it's a little bit Amazon-like in the sense of what worked and what didn't work. What do the metrics look like? We instrument pretty much everything for fairly immediate measurement, and so we like to spend, if possible, no more than a week or two on a trial, depending on what that trial is. If it's a sales trial, it might be a little bit longer because you've got a physical sales team making phone calls. But ultimately, the debrief might look like a lot of data and a lot of questions getting asked and answered, and then some decisions and next steps being made.
And when it comes to those goals, something I love that you shared in that article is that you personally will spend time to review these quarterly goals and align what the team's going to be doing for the next week. When you sit down to do that every day, what's it like? How do you start?
Well, I start with what's most important for the week and the goals that we're going after for the month. And so every month we start out with a clear set of goals that are tied to usually top line, kind of jobs and revenue, the cost of the business, and how we're servicing those jobs. And ultimately, there's a series of conversion metrics that we look at from website to text, and then on the sales side as well. So when I come in on a Monday morning, I've usually prepared for, here are the top 2 or 3 things this week that I want to get accomplished in terms of tying our actions to those measurements and to those goals.
And what have you learned, whether it's at Pro.com or in your past experiences, about execution? What do we need to be productive?
Well, you have to have a clarity of goal and mission. So, if everybody comes to work every day knowing what it is that they're trying to impact, and they can impact that metric or that goal, then you're in a great place, because ultimately, then it's up to you to remove the roadblocks from the employees along the way that are, whether it's in a large company, bureaucratic or political, right? Or in a smaller company, just being able to determine when to cut something that's not working and go try something else.
Glad you mentioned cutting something because I've always been curious. I have a friend who says that, you always have to persevere, but also be patient. When have you been patient for too long? When is it time to cut the project?
Yeah, that is the single biggest question an entrepreneur faces in kind of the day-to-day tactics. It's what's working, how long does it work? I think that the way that I've set the kind of stage at the team here at Pro.com is that any given quarter we probably have one or two larger projects that are going after a game-changing shift in behavior and conversion and customer experience. And then you have a series of usually anywhere from, depending on the size of company, 6 to 12 maybe, but usually 6 to 8 projects that you're trying to move the needle on a given metric. And those projects, I think, are the ones where you give a time bound, determined 2 weeks. Usually it's anywhere from a few days to maybe 2 weeks, where you're going to trial something. And if it's a new sales approach, it's usually 1 to 2 weeks, and you have 100 customers you talk to, and you look at that data and you say, hey, is this working? Is this actually providing a better conversion? If it's something on the website, depending on the traffic, you can usually do that in number of hours if it's Amazon, the number of days or a week if you're a startup, and that's what determines whether or not you move forward with that project becoming a new method of process or a new part of the website, or whether you chunk it and move on to something else.
That's something great that you had written a post about in the past, and it was more about launching and waiting to have, product market fit until you're sharing everything and having customers come to the site. But it really sticks out to me here too, because when you said that it leads to conviction, that's what your response just brought up to me. When I have the data, I know either it's working or it's not. So it's really about the mental exercise then of letting go.
Right. It is, and that's really hard for most people to do, and especially if you already are predisposed to, this is what we're doing, then it doesn't matter what the data says, you're going to still do what you intend to do. I think you have to be open as an entrepreneur, as a team, to the honest reality of what's working. We're doing things today that a number of my team members said we should do 6 months ago or a year ago, and at the time we collectively, assessed and said, no, that doesn't make any sense. But we're doing those things now because the data has said we should. and that happens in business if you allow it to, if you are open to letting data drive your decision and letting data ultimately prove you right or wrong. If you can set ego aside and exercise humility in your business and the trials that you're making, then I think you can actually build a successful company.
How do you balance then speed and sustainability?
Well, I think it's entirely based, that's kind of a forcing function based on the dollars that you have, the resources that you have, to use those dollars and put the money to work, and then what you can get accomplished. And I think for most startups that are anywhere from 20 to 40 people, and we're bigger than that now, but ultimately you can only do a few things. You can only you really have to limit your your bets, if you will, and so you start out making a series of bets. You shut down those things that aren't working, and you take those that are, and you lean into them, and you have to have, in my mind, enough resource to be able to try a few things for any given domain. If it's pro acquisition, if it's customer acquisition, you have to be able to have some runway to run some trials and see what works and what doesn't work. And as long as you have that ability, I think that you can make use the data to guide your decisions.
And as you're doing that, especially in the market that you guys are in, so you're testing different things, you're expanding into markets, there's a lot of competition. How do you view that and make sure that the competition isn't, right on your shoulder when you're thinking about something, you put it aside?
Yeah, I think that many people focus on competition in an unhealthy way, in terms of, wow, they're doing that, in a very reactive way. We don't do that at all. We obviously look, see what the competition is doing. I think you can learn valuable lessons from what works and what doesn't work out there. But we really spend very little time focused on the competition. It doesn't yield results as much as focusing on the customer.
When you reflect on those types of experiences of you've been in fast-paced startups and businesses your entire career.
Yeah.
Is there one experience or one lesson that someone taught you or you learned just by observing an individual or a team that informs the way you work today?
Wow. There are quite a few. Not sure where to start with that one. Quite a few lessons learned. I think that probably the most valuable lesson learned, was from kind of Jeff Bezos directly in Amazon, which was to, even the smallest of change can make a big difference, and to make sure that you're really listening to the customer and using the customer experience as that guide. And so, early in Amazon's history, we used to launch projects and then come up with new ideas and launch additional projects. And it was imbibed early in the company's history to really use a web lab type approach. Take two different things and show them to a customer set, and then see what the customers actually do, not just what they say. And so it's probably been the single biggest lesson of my career as to how to do that with a startup, which is relatively small traffic, right? In terms of trying to do a statistical web lab, and how to do that versus at scale. And I learned many of those lessons both in Amazon in its early days, as well as in the startups that I've had. How to let data guide a decision, even if it's fairly sparse and you don't have a lot of data, but to use it for guidance, navigational guidance, not necessarily betting the farm, guidance.
And that's what you were saying too, that when you do that, a lot of unexpected things happen, and then you end up going in a direction that you may have never predicted.
That's exactly right. And I think that if you stay close to what the customers are saying about your service, about your product, and then test using their direct actions as feedback, that's the best that you can do.
And in those unexpected turns, whether it was working on a product or just in your journey in general, what's one that sticks out to you that you smile back on when you think of it?
Well, we launched a web lab at Amazon that was at the end of the shopping cart, and it was actually sharing a discount on what you bought with your friends, and it had a 10x difference on conversion when we just made one small tweak in the experience, and it was just shocking to me that literally we could go from and part of that product was to drive connections between customers and start building the community to drive more customer reviews and everything else. And we literally went from driving thousands of connections between customers to millions. Wow. and so to see that material change, right, is in a matter of one small test is pretty remarkable, and really just opened up my eyes to how to listen to the customer and try new things and be able to test different approaches.
And how about for you, at Pro.com now in 2016, what are you excited to test, whether it's personal or professional? What do you want to learn?
Well, the experience is broken in our industry. It truly is. There are some great pros out there, and there are some not great pros out there that are servicing customers.
And we've all experienced it.
Right, and we've all experienced it, and that's the beauty and the pain of it. I think the creating a great customer experience on a consistent basis, measured at a 99th percentile basis, is extremely hard. And so that's the fun challenge, having gone through the pain myself of many different home improvement projects, a number of which have gone wrong or been over budget, or the pro's never been on time. And to be able to create a consistent experience is remarkable, and is game changing for me. Is one of the ways in which I believe I can make an impact on the world by creating a great experience around one that is usually not great.
And whether it's been at Pro.com, I'm really glad you mentioned, making an impact on the world, because each of your roles have given you an opportunity and platform to do that, which is also really special.
Yeah.
What's the best feedback during this journey that you've received that just influenced you and it changed the way you think?
Well, it's I think when you make the rounds and talk to a number of different venture capitalists, and my role prior to this was EIR at Andreessen Horowitz, which was truly a phenomenal company, amazing opportunity to just get a chance to see the world of entrepreneurship through many different lenses and many different companies in across industries. I think I think those that want to leave a lasting impact on the world want to create great companies. They want to create great experiences. They want to do something that no one else has done before. And that was my entire experience at Amazon as a company, and both in terms of the roles that I had. And I think as a startup, you're trying to take the seed of a concept and change a population, which usually takes many years, if not a decade, to do. And you have to have that long vision and the ability to persevere through all the things that don't work to create a great experience that truly changes the world. And I look at at on-demand companies that have done that, like Uber or Lyft or others that are truly changing how we do things, on a day-to-day basis. And I admire and have nothing but admiration for those entrepreneurs that can create that change across hundreds of thousands and millions of people.
I love it, and it's very exciting to be able to watch you and your team do the same. Before we go, Matt, we always focus on 3 questions that don't have to do with work. So these ones are quick and easy.
All right.
The first one, if you were a song, what song would you be?
If I were a song, what song would I be? Let's see. It would probably be AC/DC Back in Black.
I love that one. That's a good one. And fast, too. It takes people time to think about it.
There you go.
Number 2, if you could teleport back in time, any time in any time in history, where would you teleport to?
Where would I teleport to? Wow. I would, it's a great question. I would teleport, I would probably teleport back in the recent history. It's a great question.
Time machine's waiting. Come on.
The time machine is waiting. I would probably teleport back to my younger self to teach myself a number of lessons.
Is there one lesson in particular you'd want to teach yourself?
I think it's probably, it's probably the listening to others much more carefully and closely. I think when you're young, you don't have as fine-tuned a listening.
When you're young, you're the smartest one in the room. So
you absolutely are.
You don't have to worry. Last one, Matt. What's one question that you've always wanted to be asked? Personal, professional, athletic achievement from when you were 7 that nobody's ever asked you.
Wow. Well, I guess what is the craziest thing you've ever done in life?
All right, I'm a little scared to hear this. What's the craziest thing you've ever done in life?
I would have to say it would probably be of a skydiving or bungee jumping nature. But the reality is, it was probably going to the nth degree with my startup when I had everybody telling me to stop, and literally, putting salaries on credit cards and just driving through the challenges and the barriers that the obstacles that people said that were the reasons that we couldn't grow. And so that was probably the craziest thing, just because it was so meaningful to me in life to have done that and accomplished that in the face of everybody saying to not do it. So I have to ask you, though, what's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Well, I'm not a crazy person at all, so I jumped off like a 25-foot cliff one time in Hawaii and everyone made fun of me. So I think that's about it. We have a picture to prove it. There's a locals behind me and I'm standing like this and screaming the whole way down.
It sounds like Black Rock on Maui.
I think it was Black Rock.
It probably was.
And it was a horrible experience. I never want to repeat it.
Well, I was a diver in high school and college, and so I personally have done a number of different crazy dives off of Black Rock and enjoyed it.
Matt, I'm glad that one of us did. Matt, it was a pleasure to get to spend time with you today and learn from all of your incredible experiences. What's the best way for everyone to stay up to date with you and start using Pro.com?
Sure. So I think if you have anything you need done in and around the home, you can simply just text us to Pro, which is 776-776. We will have somebody immediately respond and usually provide you pricing of how much it'll cost, because we built a very comprehensive pricing engine. And to stay in touch with us at Pro, just visit Pro.com. We have a great blog. So we have a blog right on the website, and we publish a lot of great neighborhood and local, seasonal, interesting things you should be doing in and around the home. It's a great way to stay in touch with us, too.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.